This was our most popular episode last season. We love Monet, we love Hokusai, we love flowers. Sometimes it's not that complicated. Monet, after discovering Japanese art, goes on to be one of the most famous artists in the world. Hokusai isn't so lucky. Anyway, it's a good story, and if you do like flowers and you're around the Twin Cities this April, you should come to our home museum, the Minneapolis Institute of Art, which is holding a month of art in bloom, culminating in a weekend of flower displays in the galleries, April 23rd to the 27th. Get more info at artsmia.org. Enjoy the show. One day in 1871, Claude Monet walks into a spice shop in Amsterdam. Or perhaps it's a pottery shop, or a grocery in Zaandam. In any case, Monet walks into a shop, and there, wrapped around some spices, or tacked to the wall, or sitting beside some fruit, are woodblock prints from Japan, of Mount Fuji, or the sea, or both, or neither. There are many stories of this moment, including the one that Monet himself would tell, of being 16 in 1856, just 3 years after Japan was forced at gunpoint to open to the West, in a shop full of foreign curiosities in Amsterdam, and seeing Japanese prints in a china bowl he was haggling over, which is almost certainly the least trustworthy of the stories. What we do know is what happens next. Monet takes the prints, and no one in whatever shop this is seems to care. 1 year later, or perhaps a couple of decades, Monet paints Impression Sunrise, the artwork that gives Impressionists their name, of a harbor town, boats bobbing in the water, painted quickly and simply, with a single splash of bright color. Wallpaper in its early stages is more finished than that, one critic writes, which, under the influence of Japanese art, is more or less what Monet was going for. By the end of the century, Monet will have collected hundreds of Japanese prints, covering the walls of his house in Giverny. The gardens will have a bridge amid bamboo in the Japanese style. Mrs. Monet, Camille, will wear a kimono around the house. Almost as if, on the other side of the world, someone had created a great wave, which rolled and tumbled through the years, growing larger and larger as it moved from east to west, until it crashed on the shores of Europe, leaving behind something of the spirit of Japan, which, of course, someone had. Someone named Katsushika Hokusai, or Shunro, or Itsu, or Manji, or Taito. This is the Object Podcast, produced by the Minneapolis Institute of Art, now showing Hokusai Monet, using floral works by Hokusai and Monet to reveal the relationship between Japanese and French art in the 1800s. The object is made possible by generous support from Ameriprise Financial, a proud supporter of the Minneapolis Institute of Art and committed to the future of art and culture in the communities they serve. Ameriprise Financial, helping people feel confident about their financial future since 1894. Today, a story of unlikely intersections and unintended consequences. A story of ambition and obsession, and the wave hanging over all our heads. I'm Tim Gihring. Hokusai really does have a lot of names. He changes names at least 30 times, maybe more. But the name he's born with, on the outskirts of Edo, now Tokyo, is Tokitaro, the son of a guy who makes a living, or something like it, making mirrors for the shogun. Hand mirrors, mostly, made of polished bronze, with designs around the edges. Apparently, the shogun likes to look at himself a lot. Well, in the late 1700s, there isn't much of a future in metal mirrors. So, at age 12, Hokusai is sent to work in a bookstore and library, and then to apprentice in a woodblock print shop, both of which are booming. The so-called floating world of Edo is starting to lift off in the 1790s, a kind of shadow city of sex and entertainment that seems to float above day-to-day life in Tokyo, which for most people is pretty close to the ground. Zero social mobility, virtually no contact with the outside world, like an ant. And yet, almost anyone can bring the floating world home with them. Pictures of prostitutes and kabuki actors from the best artists in Japan. Only about $4 each in today's money. Tack them to the inside of your anthill. Hokusai's boss is this guy, Shunsho, who generally gives the people what they want. Like a print of a couple under a duvet, with a black cat arching its back nearby. From a series called Haiku Cuckoo, Worshipping a Woman's... Well, this is a family show. Google it. Hokusai is like, He's been painting on his own since he was 6. But he has to wait until he's 18 to make his first woodblock prints. And when he finally gets the chance, he changes his name for the first time, before painting a run-of-the-mill series of kabuki actors. And then, when his teacher dies, he never looks back. Now, Hokusai has a few quirks. Every morning he draws a Chinese lion, or a lion dancer, on a small piece of paper and throws it out the window to keep evil at bay. But almost everything else, discarded drawings, charcoal wrappings, moldy food, he throws in a corner of his house until the trash corner becomes the room itself, and then the house. And that's when it's time to clean. Or not. Hokusai never does clean. He moves. In fact, he moves at least 93 times. He likes starting over. It works for him. He still manages to turn out thousands and thousands of prints, like waves coming ashore, one after the other, forever. By the early 1800s, he's painting landscapes and everyday life. No more kabuki. Maybe a few prostitutes. He has bigger ideas. Once he creates a portrait of a Buddhist figure so large he paints it with a broom and buckets of ink. He is a kind of performance artist now. And eventually he finds himself back in the court of the shogun, a competition with the shogun's official painter, a much more traditional artist. Hokusai paints a couple of winding blue lines on a long sheet of paper. And then he gets a chicken, dips its feet in red paint, and sets it on the paper. As the chicken runs along the blue lines, suddenly the concept is revealed. A river with floating maple leaves in fall. He wins. Hokusai is famous now, and making money. Not floating world money, but not mirror money either. Enough to hire a house cleaner, perhaps, but whatever. Hokusai starts making images of a great wave when he's about 33. The first wave's no bigger than the people in the image, as if a wave had reached out of the water to tap them on the shoulder. But over time, the waves grow. By 1803, the wave is about twice as tall as the boat shown beneath it. By 1805, it's about 4 times as tall. Hokusai keeps raising the stakes as he gets older, elevating the power of nature and lowering the power of people. As if to say, no one gets out of this world alive. At some point in the early 1800s, he changes his name again, this time to the name he'll be remembered by, Hokusai. And then, in 1810, when he's 50 years old, lightning strikes. In fact, it strikes him. Hokusai survives. Most people do. Sharon Stone, the actress, was struck by lightning as a child, a 1/16 of an inch, apparently, from her jugular vein. Martha Stewart has been struck 3 times so far. If it doesn't kill you, she says, I think it's good for you. Or not. Anyway, Hokusai survives, but he is different. He leaves Edo and starts wandering to Kyoto and beyond. A year later, when he returns, he changes his name to Taito. For years, the North Star has been the focus of his Buddhist religious practice. Hokusai is an abbreviation of a word that means North Star Studio. Taito means star-blessed, as though the star has saved his life. He starts painting 2 series of landscapes, famous sites of the Eastern capital, and 8 views of Edo, which are published that same year. And he begins to take on students, as though he's come into some knowledge he wants to pass on. He changes his name again to Itsu, which means become one with creation, and then to Manji, which means everything and always. This isn't to say that Hokusai is somehow all spiritual and enlightened now. Around 1814, he makes a book of erotic prints involving women and octopi, and not even a duvet in sight. But at some point, between those 2 name changes, he makes his biggest and most famous wave, the Great Wave. This time, there are 3 boats at the foot of the wave, straining to get over it, and the wave itself is perhaps 8 or 10 times their size. The color of the wave has changed too, a deep indigo mixed with Prussian blue, a color imported from Europe. Against the white foam spilling like dragon's claws off the top of the wave, the blue is like the ocean on a bright, warm, sunny day. Except it wants to kill you. But the real change is what's in the background. Mount Fuji, standing firm as it always is, literally rock solid and sacred, suggesting perhaps that in the turmoil of this life, there is always the eternal. Hokusai does in some way seem convinced that he might be eternal himself, or at least that he's just getting started. He is in his 70s when his print of the Great Wave is published as part of his series, 36 Views of Mount Fuji. In Until the age of 70, he writes, nothing that I drew was worthy of notice. Only he's running out of money, and his family is in legal trouble, and the government is citing his work for indecency. Maybe a duvet would have been nice. And then, in 1834, a fire destroys his house. For years, Hokusai had kept all his drawings and supplies in a wooden cart, which he and his daughter would drag from one place to another. Now it's all gone. As if the wave he'd been making larger and larger had come down on him. Well, let's check in with Monet. Those stories about discovering Japanese art in a shop of some kind, none of them are likely true, because there were other, more typical opportunities. In 1867, Japan has a display at the Exposition Universelle in Paris for the first time. The main attraction, 3 women in kimono on a platform, sitting on tatami mats all day and night, having tea. Parisians can't get enough. Westerners crowded in front of the house, one Japanese official puts it, in order to have a good look at them and gaze at them with glasses. Suddenly, little shops selling woodblock prints and screens and kimono are popping up everywhere in Paris. France and Japan have a lot in common, says Siegfried Bing, the inventor of the Art Nouveau style, who's running 3 of these shops. And is actually German, but whatever. A bond of kinship born of the same love of beauty, he says. But it's also happening in London. Curio shops, fashion designers importing kimono, cutting them up and stitching them into women's dresses, among other reactions. Maybe you've heard of Gilbert and Sullivan. How about now? Yeah, Sideshow Bob knows. Gilbert of Gilbert and Sullivan is sitting in the library of his house, trying to think up a new play, when a huge Japanese sword falls from the wall. He thinks of the Japanese village that has set up in London, just like in Paris. The women in their robes shuffling to work through the Victorian streets. And just like that, he has his new play, The Mikado. Or not. Gilbert may well have a samurai sword, but the Japanese village doesn't open in London until a month before the Mikado does. These artists, for some reason, feel they need to justify their interest in Japanese art with clever stories of strange stores and falling swords, as though a wave from Japan hasn't washed over Europe, turning everyone a little bit, well, Japanese, and a little bit weird. Monet at some point, and this is true, goes into one of those Japanese souvenir shops, buys his wife a kimono, and then paints her in front of a wall of fans, wearing the kimono and a blonde wig. It's complicated. By the 1880s, Monet is obsessed. Japanese art exhibitions open all the time now, and he has to be there first if possible. The opening of the Japanese exhibition is not on Tuesday, he writes to his dealer, Paul Durand Ruel, in 1883, but tomorrow, on Monday. Therefore, I will come tomorrow. Monet is also kind of an ass. He wants nothing to do with kabuki actors and erotic octopi, like that's somehow not the real Japan. He wants the landscapes, the flowers. Fine. Hokusai painted a series of large flowers called the Large Flower Series. Monet has to have them all. I thank you for thinking of me about the flowers by Hokusai, he writes to his new dealer. You do not tell me about the poppies, and it is what matters, because I already have the irises, the chrysanthemums, the peonies, and the volubilis. Yeah, Monet needs to chill the out. In 1897, when he's settled in at Giverny, Monet makes 4 paintings of chrysanthemums in the style of Hokusai. Flowers he had planted in his garden. Large flowers. He is, of course, already more famous than Hokusai or any other Japanese artist. And one day it all comes full circle. It's 1921. A Rolls-Royce pulls up to the house in Giverny, and a man gets out named Matsukata from Japan, the son of a former prime minister, a friend of the emperor, one of the richest men in the world. Matsukata sees the Japanese gardens, the Japanese prints on the walls of the house, and then, of course, Monet's paintings. He wants 17 of them for a museum he's planning called the Art Pavilion of Pure Pleasure. And then he sees one of Monet's pictures of water lilies and weeping willows, 14 feet long, which Monet had not been planning to sell. Go ahead and ask high prices, Matsukata tells him. And Monet says, okay. And Matsukata takes the 18 paintings and supposedly sends a check for almost $1 million for the water lilies alone. Let's go back to Hokusai one more time. After the fire, he and his daughter go into hiding to get away from it all. Then he changes his name yet again. Day by day in my old age, he writes, I am developing my technique by building on my past failures. Even though I am nearly 80, my eyesight and the strength of my brush are no different from when I was young. Let me live to be 100, and I will be without equal. And at the age of 110, he writes, every dot and every line from my brush will be alive. I call on those who may live as long as I to see if I keep my word. Signed, formerly Hokusai, now the painting crazy old man. He paints solitary animals like tigers and dragons and phoenixes, rising from the ashes as he is yet again. Eyeglasses not needed, he brags in a line next to his signature on one of his last prints in 1848. Pine trees and full moon. But he isn't eternal, and he knows it. In his last months, he makes one more image of Mount Fuji. The mountain almost completely drained of color. A thin dark cloud twisting around it like a snake. And right in the cloud, a long, powerful dragon rising to the heavens. When he dies, painting crazy old man is not 110 or 100 or even 90. He is 88. It's 1849. Monet is 8 years old, growing up on the coast of France in Normandy, playing on the beach, watching the waves come in. This has been the Object Podcast, produced by the Minneapolis Institute of Art. and made possible by Ameriprise Financial. Stay tuned for more episodes dropping soon. And see some Monet and Hokusai paintings now through August at the museum here in Minneapolis. I'm Tim Gihring. Écoute, le monde et toutes les flûtes.